Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at a Mew VMAX deck. I already did a video on Mew VMAX on my channel, but that was more of a toxicity focused build. Then we're going to be going over maybe a little bit more traditional build, but it's also just a little bit out of the box as well. So really excited to show you guys this list. Now, I'm hoping to do a whole bunch of Fusion Strike content because I'm really excited for this set. It has some really great cards in it. And hopefully it'll come along with TCG Live, which I'm also very excited for as well. So this Mew VMAX deck actually really just focuses on just the V, which is actually not a bad card, especially when you're using its attacks with the VMAX. So the Mew V here has the first of all, it has 180 HP, which specifically in this build we do want it to be higher. But it's not going to be that bad. Actually, a lot of the meta isn't actually going to be doing too much damage to us. And, Urshifu, Shower usually actually doesn't hit that much turn 2 either, unless you're using Alchemy. And Dragapult also can't really want to KO us early in the game. So actually getting off Energy Mixer for 1 Psychic Energy, search your deck for an energy attached to one of your fusion Pokemon, is of course actually going to be actually a really useful attack for us, and it's actually a really good way for us to power up our Pokemon if we go second, kind of like this deck's Cresselia. But then we also have Psycho Jump for a Psychic and Colorless, which is 70 damage, and you may shuffle this Pokemon while cards attached to it into your deck. Now this is actually one of the best attacks in the deck. It only does 70 damage, but we do have an Electro Power Light card that can boost that damage, so we can do a decent amount of damage with this Psycho Jump, and we can shuffle into the deck. But remember, when you're copying this attack with a 310 HP VMAX Pokemon, shuffling into the deck is insanely powerful, especially when you pair it with things like Cheryl and also other like healing effects and just like stall effects, stuff like that. So this build is a little bit more grindy than like the traditional build that's been doing well in Japan with like Peony in it, but this build just takes a little like one step at a time. A little bit more grindy, healing, control-y, and I really do like this build because I do like that it has more options and more lines of play than the other build. If you know me, then I've said it in multiple videos, but I love Welder Mewtwo. It's my favorite deck of all time. In fact, I might have the World Championship deck around here somewhere because I keep that sleeved up. Anyway, I really love Welder Mewtwo, and this is probably the closest thing we're going to be having now that Mewtwo and Mew has rotated. Just kind of like a box-style deck. Obviously, Mew VMAX can't be as boxy as Mewtwo and Mew, but it's still, a great Pokemon successor nonetheless. So, starting off with our fusion Pokemon, we have our, I believe all our Pokemon are fusion. We have 4 copies of Mew V, which I just told you about. And then we have just 2 copies of Mew VMAX. Now, that might seem a little bit weird. No, actually, I didn't describe what the Mew VMAX does. It has the attack for 2 colorless energy that lets you choose one of your best fusion Pokemon's attacks and uses this attack, which is obviously where we're going to be building around. And then we have 2 Psychic Energy Max Miracle 130 goes through all effects. So we have a really, really nice Decidueye out just right there and built into the card. Also, big shout out to Talent X, who on his Twitter he went and shared some of the translated proxies. So that's where I'm getting these translated cards from. So if you guys want to go ahead and build your own Fusion Strike decks, then go over and head to Talent X's Twitter. Yeah, Mew VMAX, and also I forgot to mention both these Pokemon are free retreat, which is another really huge part of our decks. Being able to Cheryl and then immediately just free retreat into a new Mew or new attacker, because we actually can't attack with our other Pokemon that we are going to be copying attacks, and our consistency Pokemon, which is going to be the Genesect V. That has the Fusion System ability that says, once on your turn, you can draw cards from your deck until you have the number of cards in your hand is equal to the number of Fusion Pokemon you have in play. And since literally every single one of our Pokemon in the deck are Fusion Pokemon, it means that if you have 6 in play, it's literally just a Crobat every single turn for each Genesect you have. So you can have all 4 Genesect and have a Crobat. You can have 4 Crobats every single turn, except you don't need to waste that bench space. It's just on your bench, and it's actually useful because VMAX can copy the attack Techno Blast for 210, and this Pokemon cannot attack during your next turn, which with VMAX is not as big of a deal because it does a free retreat. So yeah, the Genesect V is insanely powerful. Definitely going to be wanting to run 4 copies of Genesect, and we have 3 single prize Pokemon. We have 1 copy of Latias, which does have an ability that powers up Latios, but we aren't running any Latios in this list. But it's only really here for the Dynablaster, I think, no, Dyna Barrier. That for Fire, Psychic, Colorless, which is a little bit awkward, but then remember we do have Mew VMAX to copy that. For just 2 energy, we can do 70 damage and prevent all damage not just by VMAXs. So going along with that little like kind of control-y and more grindy-esque style that this build is taking. We have 1 copy of Oricorio, which does have the Fervent Lesson ability that says your fusion Pokemon in play take 20 less damage from attacks, and you can apply more than 1 Fervent Lesson ability. And then the attack for Fire and Colorless does Passionate Drop. You get to place 5 damage counters on your opponent's board in any way you want. Which is really nice in case we like whiff some knockouts. We're just like 10 or 20 damage short, which can come up. We do have that Oricorio as an option, and it can be kind of nice in that it can make our fusion Pokemon take less damage against kind of like low hitting decks like Inteleon. It can prevent that 2-shot Dragapult. Urshifu, especially with resistance. So Fervent Lesson is actually not a really bad idea versus these like decks that really like rely on 2-shotting you. And then our last one for Pokemon is the new Deoxys that is all 3 battle styles. It is Single Strike, Rapid Strike, and Fusion Strike, and has the attack, I believe, Photon Burst. For 3 colorless energy, it does 80 damage, and if it has any fusion energy attached to it, it does 160. So this is a nice 1-price attacker, and since we do run fusion energy and a way to just attach our fusion energy to our Pokemon, means that this Deoxys is a really nice just 1-price attacker. Versus the Decidueye, obviously you also have the Max Miracle attack on Mew VMAX, but this is also going to be really nice implement to that can actually one-shot things. You don't need like any power tablets or anything like that. So going into our supporters, we are running 4 copies of Alessa's Sparkle, I think it is called. That there's choose 2 of our fusion Pokemon to play, and then we get a starter deck for a energy card and attach it to for a fusion energy and attach it to each of the Pokemon we chose. So this allows us to power up literally every single one of our Pokemon, because all our Pokemon in the deck are fusion Pokemon. Alessa's Sparkle just lets us power up those Pokemon, which is really, really nice. So yeah, and this is like the Welder part of this Mew VMAX build. This is the kind of like the Welder part of that. So and also paired with Cheryl and paired with other like healing cards, or just with the I don't remember what the attack is called, but Mew V's second attack that does 70 shells in the deck. That is going to be really, really nice for that. And also compare up your Genesect beat, because Fusion Energy is basically just an Aurora Energy when attached to a Fusion Pokemon. So you can actually attack with Genesect beat as a pretty good 2-prize attacker option. We do, of course, run 4 copies of Marnie. Now, I have seen lists running 0 Marnie and 4 Peony. In this list, I originally ran 0 research and just 2 Marnie, but that I just bricked way too much, way too often. So I did want to add the 2 Marnie. And if you think about it, Marnie is actually insanely good in this deck, because you can Marnie your opponent only down to a 4-card hand, and you have Genesect that you can refill your hand potentially 2 or 3 times after your Marnie. So you can kind of reset your hand to a low hand size if you do have that giant hand size. You really need to draw into that 1 card. Marnie can help you do that, but not only that, it can maybe cheese your opponent into a really bad hand, and you can just take over the game from there. We've seen numerous games just get 1 because of Marnie into a dead hand. So Marnie is a really, really great card. We're running 4 of them in this list. We run 2 copies of Boss's Orders, because we can drag up our opponent's Pokemon on the bench. And we run 2 copies of Cheryl, which does heal all damage from each of our evolution Pokemon to play. And then we can discard all energy from this Pokemon. Now, this is where the Alessa Sparkle comes into play, because you can couple attach return Alessa Sparkle. Hopefully you'll be able to power up like, I don't know, a Mew VMAX and a Genesect. So you can attack with that Mew VMAX, maybe it's taking a little bit less damage from attacks. Then you can Cheryl it and then go into another attacker, be it Genesect or just another VV. Or if you don't have Cheryl, you can always just Psycho Jump back into the deck and deal, a pretty decent 70 damage when your other attack just deals 210, and you have ways to increase that damage. So, Cheryl is really, really good. I definitely think this is going to be the way to play Mew, just a little bit more mellow, laid-back version where you're kind of just taking 1 step at a time, healing, shuffling into the deck until you really get up to those big one-shots that you can take with the Genesect. And our last supporter is going to be 1 copy of Chili, Ceylon, and Cress, I think it is called. That just lets you search your deck for 3 fusion Pokemon and put them in your hand now. No, it doesn't say basic, like Brawly. Brawly says search deck for 3 basic rapid strikes. No, the search is for 3 Pokemon, 3 fusion Pokemon, which means you can get your Mew VMAX out, which is really, really helpful when you only run 2 and Great Balls. No instants in the deck, just 2 Mew VMAX, the Sea Lion Crest, and Great Balls, but you also run Pokegear, so you can go ahead and find that Sea Lion Crest to get your Mew VMAX if you need to, but also you can get, like, multiple Genesects out. A Mew V. If you can just get out Pokemon that you want a copy of Mew VMAX. You can get out more Pokemon that you want to have access to, so you can draw more cards with Genesect. So Sea Crest is a pretty good all-around card. But it is your supporter card for the turn. You have to think, is that going to be better than something like Alyssa Sparkle or Marnie? So 1 copy of Steelon, Chili, and Cress. And then for our item cards, we are running 4 copies of Quick Ball, obviously, because we want to get all our attackers and get as many Pokemon in play as we can as fast as possible, so we can draw a pretty decent amount of cards with our Genesect. Next, we're running 4 copies of Great Ball, which lets you look at the top 7 cards of your deck, grab a Pokemon, and then put that Pokemon in your hand. So this can search out both basics and evolutions, but it's also just a burnable card. So if we have like 7 cards in hand, 6 Pokemon, we can just play Great Ball, not get anything, play Great Ball, not get anything, maybe play Quick Ball and discard something, and all of a sudden our hand is down. So burnable cards are, I think, a really big deal in decks with Genesect, so you can play your hand down to a decently low size to just draw back up with Genesect. Next, we are running 4 copies of Pokegear 3.0, and Pokegear 3.0 lets us look at the top 7 cards of our deck, grab supporter, and then put that supporter into our hand. So this can find our Marnies, it can find their Alyssa Sparkle, which is essentially like our Welder in this deck. It can find our Cheryl. So all these really, really important supporters that are really, really, really important to our game plan can just be searched off this 1 card. And once again, it's burnable. You can just play it, not get anything, and draw extra cards with Genesect. Next, we have 4 copies of the Power Tablet. And this is how we're going to increase our fusion Pokemon's damage. It's an item, so during your turn, your fusion Pokemon's attacks deal an additional 30 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So this increases your Mew V's Psycho Jump to 100, and it can increase your Genesect to 240, and you can stack these. You can play, in theory, you can play all 4 of them, deal an extra 120 damage, and one-shot something with Genesect. That is 100% possible, especially when you don't play too many discarding effects besides Quick Ball. So, unless you're playing them, these Power Tablets aren't getting in the discard pile very often unless you don't want them to, because we don't run anything like research. So Power Tablet, you can save them up, you can keep them around, you can play, 1 of them at a time, 2 of them at a time, even 3 of them at a time, depending. Deal more damage with Psycho Jump, or just, deal more damage when you're doing that Techno Blast. So, 4 copies of the Power Tablet. And then one of the best cards in the deck, in my opinion, 4 copies of Fog Crystal, which searches for a basic Psychic Pokemon or a basic Psychic Energy. Now, in a vacuum, this isn't a great card in this deck because you can only search Mew. But it does get an Energy, which is a big deal. And also, just searching for a Mew in your hand, not only is it just burnable, you can just play it, not get anything, but you can also just search a Mew, which is 1 more card with Genesect. And we do need a decent amount of Mews on the bench, so we can both have 1 to evolve and a copy of Mew if we want to. So, 3 copies of Fog Crystal is actually a really, really important card in this deck. And we do run basic Psychic Energies, so not only is this an extra card we can draw, either by getting another Mew down or just by burning it, but it's also a energy, which is 2 really, really great things. And then we're running 1 copy of Switch and 2 copies of Air Balloon for our switch outs. Now, in terms of counting Path of the Peak, obviously Path of the Peak shuts down our entire draw engine. Genesect V is our only Pokemon draw. We don't run Crobat or anything like that. I need Chino. So Path of the Peak does shut down our entire draw engine, which sucks. We only do need 2 energy to attack, so it's actually not too hard to operate under Path of the Peak, but it is annoying just for getting, Marnie 2 dead hand. We only have 4 draw supporters, so it can be kind of hard to draw out of that sometimes, but so for our stadiums, we're going to be playing the 3 copies of Old Cemetery that says, when either player attaches an energy card from their hand to a non-psychic Pokemon, you get to put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. Obviously, we're going to be attaching to our Mew, which is which is a psychic Pokemon, which means it's not going to be taking damage, but most likely our opponent will, which just therefore increases our damage output by 20, which means that our Psycho Jump's doing 90, Our Genesect V is doing 230, civilization. And just, combined with the power tablets, you can be doing a decent amount of damage. If this old cemetery does stick in play for just one turn, just 20 damage matters. But if it can stick in play for more, great, just more damage, less power tablets we need to play, more pressure you can put on later by keeping those power tablets around. So yeah, 3 copies of Old Cemetery. For energy, we are running 3 copies of Fusion Energy, which when it's attached to a fusion Pokemon, it provides every single type of energy, and the fusion Pokemon it's attached to isn't affected by any abilities. So no Galarian Zagoon. One of the big ones is no Inteleon. No quick shooting can affect this Mew, which means you're really good against something like a Leafeon because it'll hit 120. You're good against something like a Dragapult. They won't be able to place annoying pings on your Mew to be able to get some nice one-shots, especially when you have like a Orion player or something like that. So Fusion Energy, preventing all effects abilities is not as good as it was in the past. But things like Ninetales, Ninetaptations are just abilities that are just really good for affecting your cards, but it's still decent for like those annoying damage cutter placing abilities. We're running the 3 base Psychic Energies that is searchable with Fog Crystal, and then 2 copies of Capture Energy because Mew attacks with colorless, and Capture Energy can just find a Genesect, which not only is maybe an additional draw to a 6 or 4 or 5, or depending on whatever you have, but it's also just an additional Pokemon on your bench that can also just draw you 1 more card. So just basically just like kind of like draw energy in this deck, but it's also just better because it can also be attached to Genesect and attack with that later and get out your Mew, and you can Alyssa Sparkle. So even if you attach Capture Energy to something that isn't Mew, you can still Alyssa Sparkle and get a good old attack off turn 2 if you do have to attach something like Capture Energy. But yeah, that's the meat of the deck. Welder Mewtwo, I love it. This deck is probably going to be the closest thing we're ever going to get to it. Again, maybe in the future we'll get maybe like some V-Star that's like Mewtwo and Mew. I'm really hoping we do because I love these box-style decks. They're really fun to play. There's just so many different paths to play you can make. But yeah, that's going to do it for the video. If you guys liked it, don't forget to leave a like. If you guys want to see more content like this, I hopefully will be doing more Fusion Strike content in the future. Then don't forget to subscribe. And yeah, that's going to be it for the video. Hope you guys liked it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.